Let's move on down there right now and watch some not particularly long magic here between Brad Nelson and Dylan Donegan. Both these players 9-3 in top 8 contention. Looks like they're going to each have to go 4-0 through the modern portion or something very close to it to be able to play in the elimination rounds. Remember, both of these players have won invitationals before, so two very skilled players that you'll be watching here, and should be a lot of fun, even though the games won't be particularly long, and going to get it started off right.
Yes.
Taxi and Probe. Now Nelson's hand may, no lands. I love it.
They get it. They know what's going on here.
Nelson with 2 Gataxian Probes, 2 Monastery Swift Spears, and 2 Miraculous Baubles. 3 pair.
Yep.
The best hand in poker. Donegan has drawn a Misty Rainforest. He will sacrifice that, and now he will play a Glistener Elf. There is a forest as we go over to Nelson. Stomping Ground sitting on top of the deck. And now the question is, how do you move forward? Now, he may have scried that to the top of his deck. We're not entirely sure, but he doesn't appear to be too surprised to be drawing land in this situation. Monastery Swift Spear is quite clearly an option here as he's going to fall down to 18, but how aggressive does Nelson want to get here in this spot? He could play a ton of spells this turn. He's going to start by playing a Miraculous Bauble.
He may want to do a little bit of splitting of the difference here with the second Swift Spear in hand. But he has an incentive to cast a cantrip this turn because he doesn't have a whole lot going on.
He's going to bobble Donegan. Take a look at the top card of his deck. Nelson will draw a card at the beginning of the next upkeep. Now here's a Gataxian Probe. So Brad will fall down to 16 and trigger Prowess. For Donegan, a Mutagenic Growth, good to know about, along with a Might of Old Croza, Distortion Strike, and a Wooded Foothills. Remember, right now that Monastery Swift Spear is a 3/4. We've had 2 spells cast.
What are your thoughts on Phyrexian mana?
It is powerful.
It's powerful.
It's very powerful. I'm a big fan of using my life total as a resource.
Yep. Has shown up in constructed Magic from time to time over the years.
Occasionally, yes. Nelson is going to play another Bauble. And he's going to beat down here for 4, it looks like. It will be 4. Donegan will draw a Breeding Pool, it appears. Dylan, someone who broke onto the scene of the SCG Tour back in 2014 when he did win our final invitational in Seattle to qualify for the Players' Championship. He'll sacrifice a Wooded Foothills right now. Young kid from the North Carolina area. Pretty good Magic player so far.
Yep. A player that we've seen a little bit less of over the last year or so at college right now, focusing a lot on that, but still shows up to the events in the Southeast, particularly invitationals.
Here's Distortion Strike. There is an attack for 2, Infect. The Bauble will allow Nelson to take a look over there. Now Brad will draw a card from the Bauble. I believe he also drew one for his turn. He will sacrifice a Bloodstained Mire. There's a Blood Crypt.
So he needs 4 spells to get it done from here.
Well, there's one.
Or some mixture of Pump Effects or Lightning Bolts and so forth.
Draw a card. Street Wraith, not a spell. Cycle. Draw a card. Looks like just a handful of lands. Oh, well, okay. Become Immense. That's
those turn 2 on 6.
Turn 2. Turn 2 on 6 cards, yes. Definitely a round of applause.
These guys get it.
Yep.
They get what's going on here.
You know, he could play Cryptic Command.
Yep. Mana Leak.
Yep. Those are options.
Siege Rhino.
For what it's worth, Brad would have died on turn 2 on his end.
Right. Or
With
3.
Distortion,
would have died on
turn 3. It would
Yeah.
have been turn 3 on his end.
Turn 3 was too slow.
Yeah. Heck of a format, I'll tell you what. Brad Nelson currently up a game here over Dylan Donegan. Death Shadow Aggro, aptly named, up a game over Infect. To the sideboards we go. Get that backup match ready. 3 Kitchen Finks, 3 Nature's Claim, 2 Grafdigger's Cage, 2 Spell Pierce, 2 Dismember, 2 Twisted Image, and a Dryad Arbor. Patrick, what do we like?
Well, I think the Dismembers and the Spell Pierces are probably the easiest add here. Dismember especially. Donegan needs to keep the battlefield clear as long as possible, and there's enough of a combo spell flurry in the Death Shadow aggro deck, I think, for Spell Pierce to be reasonable too. I think I would guess Kitchen Finks is more of an anti-burn measure, but with Brad dealing so much damage to himself over the course of the game, I think it's reasonable for Kitchen Finks to be a win condition in this matchup. And if Donegan doesn't bring it in, it's probably because it's too slow, not because it's not good enough for the matchup.
Okay. On Nelson's side of Forest, 2 Ravenous Trap, 2 Ancient Grudge, 2 Lingering Souls, a Tarmogoyf, a Hooting Mandrills, 2 Inquisition of Kozilek, a Pyroclasm, a Path to Exile, a Dismember, and a Stony Silence.
Give me those 2 copies of Inquisition of Kozilek along with the Pyroclasm, the Path to Exile, and the Dismember. Lingering Souls is also pretty potent against Infect. Again, a little bit on the slower side, but I would imagine with a bit more removal in the deck, Nelson can slow the game down and get to Lingering Souls, which is powerful against Infect if you have the time.
Fair enough. Those are the options for both players. So game number 2 will be underway, and it's already over. So probably won't take very long. Dylan Donegan will be on the play for that particular game. While they do shuffle up, we're going to talk about regionals. We announced it yesterday, but for those of whom may missed it, we've got our brand new regionals announcement ready to rock and roll for February 4th. Free exclusive playmat and token to the first 200 players at each location. Of course, there are prizes that'll be associated with this, just like we always see for regionals. But the name of our beautiful little playmat here is How of the Heavens. Get you a close-up look at that sweet playmat drawn by Andrea Radek. She is fantastic with the playmat artwork and tokens that she draws for Star City Games. Again, do remember that we also will give away the Wolf token as well. Maybe some people looking for a little something for their Master of the Wild Hunter, Huntmaster of the Fells. And again, there are prizes in SCG Tour points and invitational qualifications going to be thrown in with this, too, for Season 1 of the SCG Tour in 2017, February 4th for Modern. Go to StarCityGames.com/regionals. Learn how to plant your flag February 4th at your local regionals. And again, there will be 12 of them, and we want to thank all of the stores that are involved, including, like you mentioned yesterday, Wasteland Gaming.
Yeah, Atlanta's own. So good to see these venues. We'll have them. The official venues themselves up on the website somewhere down the road, but for now you can see these stores. Find the one closest to you. February 4th, Modern will be the format.
Game number 2 about to be underway here between Brad Nelson and Dylan Donegan. Looks like Donegan might be taking a mulligan here, so we'll take a moment to learn a little bit more about the inaugural Players Champion in Brad Nelson, the 30-year-old who currently resides in Roanoke, Virginia, with 9 open top 8s, 2 wins, 3 invitational top 8s, and 1 win there in Indianapolis a handful of years ago. He's looking to go to his 3rd Players Championship. Remember, the first one he won. The second one, lost in the top 4. And now the 3rd one, which he's looking in pretty good shape to qualify for. Who knows what the result will be.
And just such a tough out in multi-format constructed tournaments, especially in a narrow field where he has a sense of what people will be playing and can make those kind of metagame calls that he's so well known for. Definitely the most dangerous player in the PC field.
Even though he's not coming back as the returning champion, that'll be Jim Davis, of course. And this field has certainly gotten tougher with Jerry Thompson being qualified, Andrew Tenjum, and a bunch of big-name players. It's tough to pick against Brad in a format like that.
I agree. We'll get to the PC when we get to the PC, but I would not pick against Brad.
Both these players taking a look at 6 cards. Dylan Donegan does not look thrilled with the hand he's looking at, but it looks like he's resigned to keeping it. Nelson looks like he might be as well. So a scry top to the bottom there for Donegan. Nelson will leave his on top. We're underway. It's a Wooded Foothills and a passing of the turn. Over to Brad we go. Gataxian Probe is what he's found. Patrick approves of keeping that on top of the deck.
I do.
Bloodstained Mire here from Nelson. He's going to fall down to 17 as his deck not really a big fan of the old basic land.
No, everything is a fetch and a duel. He's got a forest in the sideboard. I'm assuming those are for matchups where he's expecting to get hit with Path to Exile.
There's Overgrown Tomb as Nelson falls down to 17. Now here is Probe. See what Donegan is working with here. Might of Volcrosia, Vine to the Vast Wood, a Dismember, and just a couple of lands. So what Dylan is missing is an Infect threat.
Yes. And Brad here with an Inquisition in hand can take the Dismember, and then if he has any of his threat cards, he could end the game very quickly.
Nelson now will draw from the Probe. Looks like he picked up a copy of Teamer Battle Rage. What comes next here for Mr. Nelson?
Nelson may be looking for a path to see, can he get his life total down low enough where he can just ignore the Dismember on his Death Shadow? I'm guessing that's not realistically the case.
Here's the Inquisition you mentioned.
So I'm assuming this Inquisition will tag the Dismember, then Nelson next turn will try to get his life total low enough to be able to deploy the Death Shadow.
It is the Dismember. Donegan will sacrifice his Wooded Foothills. We might see a breeding pool here in just a moment. Is that? Oh, hello. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Gonna play a little regular damage game. Draw a card. Dryad Arbor is here.
Now is it correct to attack?
Yeah. That's kind of the best part about this whole thing.
And Donegan's just picked up a Pendelhaven, so I mean those are some real beats.
Mm-hmm. Basic Forest. Just a little.
Didn't have it in him.
Just a little ting. Not too much, just a little bit. Nelson's drawn a copy of Thoughtseize, it appears.
Mulling over cards in hand here. Has a Bloodstained Mire and a Godless Shrine, so mana not an issue here.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about the turns with Nelson's deck, and we saw this actually at the last Invitational in New Jersey, not going to play a lot of turns.
Yep.
Going to play about 3 to 5 every game, but the turns that he does play with this deck are quite difficult.
And in the pre-boarded games against Infect, he can be pretty sure Donegan's on poison you out or bust.
Mm-hmm.
Post-board, it's a lot more realistic. Donegan can cobble together a kill you with regular damage sort of plan. So Brad has to be a bit more mindful of his life total here in games 2 and 3 if we get there.
Nelson going to fall down to 12. Let's make it 10. Vines of the Vastwood, Might of Old Croja, Pendelhaven, and a Wooded Foothills. We'll see what card he wants to select. Bye-bye Vines. Hello, Death Shadow.
And with Temur Battle Rage in hand, he wants to get the Vines out of the hand because the Vines can be used to counter opposing pump spells as well.
Mm-hmm.
Some backdoor functionality.
Noble Hierarch the draw.
I think Dylan's going to die next turn.
I think you might be right.
And Brad knows he doesn't have to play around anything now.
This is the fun aspect of this because I think Nelson's, yeah, I will take it. My Death Shadow is getting larger.
Yeah, you're dead.
Yep, I have become immense Temur Battle Rage and a land. You are all done here. Brad Nelson going to win this match here over Dylan Donegan. 2-0. Death Shadow aggro makes it look easy against Infect. Nelson's top 8 dreams still very much alive.
And then Donegan most likely at this point